Alright, let me tell you about the absolute weirdest, most unsettling shift I ever worked at Burger King. I was a teenager, maybe 16 or 17, and this was my first job. Usually, the late shift was pretty chill, just me, my manager, and a couple of other crew members cleaning up and serving the last few drive-thru customers. But this one night, everything felt off. It was just past 10 o'clock, almost closing time, when the drive-thru sensor dinged. No big deal. I put on my headset and said the usual. "Welcome to Burger King. How can I help you?" For a solid 10 seconds, there was just dead silence. I was about to repeat myself when a voice crackled through, low and raspy, like someone was trying to whisper but was also straining. All he said was, "One Whopper. No cheese." Okay, simple enough. I put in the order and told him the total. Again, silence. Then, a few seconds later, the same raspy voice said, "I'll be right there." The way he said it sent a shiver down my spine. It wasn't a normal confirmation. It sounded more like a threat. I tried to shake it off. I mean, it's just a drive-thru, right? People are weird. I went over to the payment window and waited. A few moments later, this ancient, beat-up sedan rolled up, the kind with rust spots all over and one headlight flickering like a dying candle. The driver's side window was already rolled down, and sitting there was a man who looked like he hadn't slept in a week. His eyes were wide, bloodshot, and they were locked right onto me. He had this thin, unsettling smile on his face, but it didn't reach his eyes at all. He just stared at me. He didn't say a word, didn't hold out any money. He was just watching. It felt like an eternity, but it was probably only 10 or 15 seconds. My heart started pounding in my chest. I finally managed to squeak out, "That'll be $5.49, sir." Without breaking eye contact, he slowly reached into his pocket and pulled out a crumpled $5 bill and a handful of change. He didn't hand it to me. He placed it, coin by coin, on the little ledge of the window, his movements deliberate and slow. The whole time, that creepy smile never left his face. I quickly scooped up the money, my hand shaking a little, and gave him his change. I turned to grab his food from the warming chute. When I turned back, he was still there, but now he was holding something up. It was a small, hand-drawn picture on a piece of greasy napkin. It looked like a child's drawing, but it was horrifying. It was a stick figure, but it had these long, sharp teeth and huge, blacked-out eyes. Next to the figure, he'd drawn a crude picture of the Burger King building, with big red X's all over it. My blood ran cold. I just froze, holding his bag. What do you even do in that situation? He just held the drawing up to the window, his smile getting wider, and then he let it drop onto the ground outside his car. He finally took the bag from my hand, his fingers brushing against mine for a split second. His skin was cold and clammy. He didn't say thank you. He just said, in that same raspy whisper, "See you again soon." Then, he slowly, and I mean slowly, pulled away from the window, his eyes still on me in his rearview mirror until he turned out of the parking lot and disappeared into the night. I immediately locked the window and ran to my manager, completely freaked out. We checked the security cameras, but the guy's license plate was covered in mud and impossible to read. We called the non-emergency line, but there wasn't much they could do. He hadn't technically done anything illegal. For the rest of my time working there, every time the drive-thru sensor went off late at night, my stomach would drop. I was terrified I'd hear that raspy voice again. Thankfully, I never saw him again. But I will never, ever forget that face or that creepy drawing on the napkin. It was, without a doubt, the scariest customer I ever had. Thanks for watching, and if you have any creepy work stories, I'd love to read them in the comments. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more stories. Stay safe out there. Have you ever gotten that weird, unsettling feeling at a fast food joint late at night? That feeling like you're the only real person there, and everyone else is just part of the scenery? Well, I had an experience at a Burger King a few years back that I still can't explain, and it's completely changed how I see those places. It was one of those miserable, rainy Tuesday nights. I was driving home late from a project, absolutely exhausted and starving. Most places were closed, but the glowing sign of a Burger King on a deserted stretch of highway was like a beacon. I pulled into the empty parking lot, relieved. The place looked a little dated, with that old-school design, but the lights were on, so I went in. The moment I stepped inside, the rain outside seemed to just stop. The air was still and strangely warm. The classic rock playing on the speakers was just a little too loud, a little too crisp. A single employee stood behind the counter, a middle-aged guy with a vacant smile plastered on his face. He didn't say, "Welcome to Burger King," or anything like that. He just stared at me, smile unwavering. Hi. Can I just get a Whopper combo with a Coke?" I asked, my voice echoing in the silent restaurant. He nodded slowly, never breaking eye contact, and his fingers tapped on the register with an unnatural rhythm. It was like he was performing a pre-programmed sequence. He didn't ask if I wanted cheese or anything. He just took my card, slid it, and handed it back, all with that same creepy, fixed smile. As I waited, I looked around. The place was spotless. Too spotless. Not a single stray crumb. No streaks on the tables, no smudges on the glass. It felt less like a restaurant and more like a museum exhibit of a restaurant. Then I noticed the other customers. There were 3 of them, sitting alone at different tables. A woman in a business suit staring blankly at her untouched burger. An old man in a flannel shirt holding a fry, but never eating it. A teenager with headphones on, bobbing his head, but his phone was dark. None of them moved. None of them blinked. They were like mannequins. My heart started to pound. This wasn't right. I wanted to bolt, to just leave my food and run back to my car, but I was frozen, caught in this bizarre tableau. The employee behind the counter called out, not with words, but with a single, sharp clap. My tray was sitting on the counter. The bag was perfectly folded, the drink glistening with condensation. I walked over, my legs feeling like lead. "Thanks," I mumbled, not expecting a reply. He just kept smiling. But as I turned to leave, I saw his reflection in the glass of the soda machine. For a split second, the smile was gone. His face was a mask of pure, agonizing terror. His eyes were wide, pleading. Then, just as quickly, the smile snapped back into place. I practically ran out of there, fumbling with the door. The moment I got outside, the sound of the pouring rain hit me like a wave. It had never stopped. I threw the food on the passenger seat and peeled out of the parking lot, my tires screeching. I drove for what felt like hours, not daring to look back. When I finally got home, I collapsed on my couch, my heart still racing. I never touched the food. The next morning, I threw the whole bag in the trash. I couldn't bring myself to even open it. A few weeks later, morbid curiosity got the better of me. I looked up that Burger King on Google Maps. There was nothing there, just an empty, overgrown lot. The Street View history showed it had been abandoned for at least a decade. So what did I see that night? A ghost franchise? A glitch in the Matrix? I don't have any answers, but I know that the employee, and maybe the other customers, were trapped. And that smile, that awful, painted-on smile will haunt me forever. Sometimes, when I pass a fast food place late at night, I see it again in my mind. And I just keep driving. Thanks for listening to my story. If you've had any creepy experiences like this, I'd love to hear about them in the comments. Be sure to like and subscribe for more unsettling tales. Stay safe out there.
Have you ever had that feeling? That sixth sense that something is just off? That tingling on the back of your neck that tells you you're being watched? I used to dismiss it as paranoia. Just my overactive imagination running wild. But not anymore. Not after what happened to me. It all started on a Tuesday night. I was driving home late from a study session, my stomach growling louder than my car's engine. The golden arches of McDonald's were closed, but the familiar glow of a Burger King sign beckoned from across the street. Perfect. I pulled into the nearly empty drive-thru. A tired-sounding voice crackled through the speaker. "Welcome to Burger King. Can I take your order?" I ordered a Whopper combo, paid at the first window, and pulled up to the second. The guy who handed me my food was maybe in his early 20s, with lanky hair and eyes that seemed a little too intense. He held onto my bag for a fraction of a second too long, his fingers brushing against mine. "Have a great night," he said, but his smile didn't quite reach his eyes. I just mumbled a thanks and drove off, eager to get home and eat. I didn't think anything of it. It was just a weird interaction, right? The next week, same situation. Late night, empty stomach. I found myself at the same Burger King. As I pulled up to the second window, my heart skipped a beat. It was him again. "Back so soon?" he asked, that same unsettling smile on his face. "Must be a fan of our burgers." I forced a laugh. "Something like that." This time, as he handed me the bag, he said, You have a really nice smile. You know that? I was taken aback. It was a little forward, but I tried to brush it off as an awkward attempt at a compliment. I just said thanks and sped out of the parking lot, feeling a strange sense of unease. The following week, I decided to avoid that Burger King altogether. I went out of my way to find a different fast food place, even though it added 15 minutes to my drive. I thought that would be the end of it. I was wrong. A few days later, I was walking out of a grocery store in a completely different part of town when I saw him, the Burger King guy. He was just standing by his car, staring directly at me. My blood ran cold. It couldn't be a coincidence. He was miles away from the restaurant. He gave me a slow, deliberate wave. I didn't wave back. I practically sprinted to my car, my hands fumbling with the keys. As I drove away, I looked in my rearview mirror. He was still standing there, watching me. The fear really set in then. I started seeing him everywhere. Parked down the street from my apartment. Walking on the other side of the road when I was out for a run. Once, I even saw his car follow me home from my friend's house. I never saw him do anything explicitly threatening, but his presence was a constant, terrifying weight. He was just there. Always watching. I started documenting everything. I took pictures of his car when it was near my apartment. I saved the receipts from the Burger King. I wrote down every single time I saw him. My friends thought I was being dramatic. That it was all in my head. He probably just lives in your neighborhood, they'd say, but I knew better. This wasn't a coincidence. The final straw came when I received a friend request on social media. It was him. His profile picture was a selfie taken inside his car, and in the background, clear as day, was my apartment building. I felt sick. How did he find me? His profile was mostly private, but the one public post was a picture of a Whopper with the caption, "Thinking of you." That was it. I took all my documentation, the photos, the notes, the screenshot of his social media profile, and went straight to the police. At first, they were skeptical, much like my friends. But as I laid out the timeline, showing them the escalating pattern of his behavior, their expressions changed. They contacted the Burger King franchise owner. And I haven't seen the guy since. I don't know what happened to him. And honestly, I don't want to know. I still get a jolt of fear whenever I see a Burger King sign. I can't even eat a burger without that cold, creeping feeling returning. It's a reminder that the world can be a scary place, and that sometimes your gut feeling is the only thing you can trust. So if you ever feel like you're being watched, don't dismiss it. Trust your instincts. It might just save you. Thanks for listening. And please, stay safe out there.